I am very excited to announce that our first investment opportunity of 2020 is now available on our website, asimcapital.com. The deal is a diversified ATM fund, which is operated by an institutional quality operator who has invested more than $100 million in ATMs over the last 8 years. The ATM business is really unique because if you get 10 investors in the room and say, hey, everyone, I'm investing in ATMs, 4 of them will probably walk out of the room immediately without even hearing you out. And I have found that that's about the perfect ratio for creating very compelling investments and long-term asymmetric returns. I'll tell you why. This particular manager has a strategy in terms of the placement of the ATMs themselves, where they focus on locations where the demand for the product is inelastic, and perhaps more importantly, the consumers themselves have low credit scores, making them unbankable. So it creates an interesting dynamic where the worse the economy does, the more people have low credit scores, the more people are unbankable, and it creates a unique recession-resistant play. And that's just one of many very compelling things about this particular offering. So if you're an accredited investor, you can get instant access to the offering on our website, asimcapital.com. That's ASYM capital.com. Like I mentioned, it's the first deal that we've put out in 2020. So it's likely that the first tranche will be oversubscribed very quickly. Head over to asimcapital.com if you're interested, and you can learn more on our website. And of course, just a quick disclosure, investing in private placements, there's always a degree of risk, including illiquidity of the investment. You can't just sell it whenever you want. So make sure to read all the offering documents before investing, including the risk disclosure section. Now, this investment is offered to U.S. investors through Growth Capital Services, which is a member of FINRA and SIPC, located at 582 Market Street, Suite 300, San Francisco, California, 94104. So today we're going to talk about how to build a business that you actually love working hard on, working with your dream customers, and working with people that love working with you. First of all, just want to apologize about the sound quality. This has been recording on my iPhone. I'm away from my desk today, but still wanted to get a message out because this is actually something that really changed not only my business, but the way that I viewed work. And this is true for a lot of people. I think when you get started in any line of business, whether it's investing or entrepreneurship or any combination of those things, it's kind of challenging to identify your voice. And the reason this matters is that your voice is what attracts people to you or away from you. And if you don't really know who you're trying to be or who you are in terms of your professional persona, the signal that you're sending out to the world is not very strong. And this is very, very common. I mean, pretty much every single person, especially when they get started, they haven't quite dialed in how they want to portray themselves. You know, the podcast community, for example, this is a very saturated space. And so for people that are starting podcasts, which if you're listening to this and you're contemplating it, I definitely think you should. It's in a very, very rewarding way to communicate with your audience. But because it's very saturated, you have to actually differentiate yourself. And this is something that's been coming up many times in these Monday Minutes, because the deeper that I've gone down that path of finding out how I wanted to present myself, how I wanted to discuss certain topics on the podcast, has been very rewarding. First of all, because I can be myself, but also because something really incredible and powerful has happened as a result of that, which is that the clients that I've been able to work with are people that I look up to, people that share a lot of the same views as me, people who generally I'd like to go out with and go to dinner with. And I want that for other people as well. So I think the first thing is, if you're constantly thinking about building a brand and trying to identify that, I think that's the kind of thing that you want to spend 90 minutes to 3 hours to really stop and, I don't want to say meditate, but stream of consciousness, write different things that come to mind out on a piece of paper. This is kind of a concept from Double Double, where Cameron Herold talks about the vivid vision, trying to envision what your ideal voice is in different ways, different angles, so it becomes more clear. So as an example, what do you want to say, first of all? What do you want people to say about you 3 years from now when you're not around in a work environment? Your colleagues and coworkers, what do they think of you? Do they think that you're an inspiring person? Do they think that you're too hard on them? Do they think that you demand a lot from them, but working for you is very rewarding? Those types of things. And then just take it down from clients, coworkers, the press, the media, your competitors, and think about what you want to represent in whatever space you're in. And the reason that's important is, like I said, there's so much noise. It's very inexpensive to get some sort of media up and running, to get a YouTube channel, to get a podcast, something like that. And so to cut through the noise, you have to have a differentiating factor. That doesn't mean you have to be wild and crazy and do something kind of flamboyant to get attention, because if that's not within your real personality, it's going to shine through as being inauthentic, which is the crippler of this whole thing that I'm talking about. So I think that's kind of the first lesson there. But also, with your employees, you have to lead by example. Or with your following, you have to lead by example. You know, if you're going to talk about, in real estate, for example, due diligence, you actually have to do it. If you're going to talk about raising capital without being a pushy salesperson, you have to be able to do that. And so I think there's actually an additional benefit to this strategy of really focusing on who you are and who your voice is and how you want to present yourself, which is that it creates a standard at which to hold yourself. So all this starts to work very well together because you kind of put your flag in the ground and say, this is the direction that we're going to go. This is the way that I'm holding myself accountable. And the extra benefit is that all of a sudden the people that you actually want to work with, your dream customers, etc., they're attracted to you. Now, if you haven't already done an exercise on who your dream customers are, that's just as critical. It's like the step one is, who do you want to attract, right? Who do you want to be with you on this awesome journey? And then the question is, okay, if that's my dream customer, how can I attract them? And that's where the voice really comes from. So hopefully that helps. I think that it really allows you to build what most people think of as a brand that's dependable and relatable. And when you're differentiated, you can be that person for whatever X is. So if whenever X comes up in conversation, they know to go to you if you're that brand. But without that differentiating factor, without that flag in the ground, it's very challenging to attract the right customers. It's very challenging to attract employees that are all on the same page. And lastly, it's very challenging to be yourself. So for a lot of you that are just getting started, or actually take that back. See, that's the thing. It's constantly an evolution. Like, I think that the people that are most experienced constantly reiterate that they're still working on this because of how important it is. It's not something that you've done and you've found it and that's it. It's constantly evolving within the framework of being authentic. So people at the highest level continue to reiterate that they're still in the process of finding their voice and attracting their dream customers as well. Hope that helps.